All right, let's take a look at solving one-step inequalities. So as we learned in the previous video, an inequality is a less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to sign. And we talked a lot about the words, what they mean, how to graph these things. But today we're going to talk about solving them. So the good news is solving a one-step inequality is just like solving a one-step equation. Everything we do is the exact same steps. I'm going to switch to my pen here. So just like with solving a one-step equation, the first thing we want to do is we want to build a t-chart. Okay, now before we used to put a line directly through our equal sign, but since there's some really important information in this inequality, I don't want to draw a line straight through it. So I'm going to just draw a line before it. But again, I build that t-chart. I still want to circle what's bothering the x or bothering the variable. So in this problem, x plus 12 is greater than 4. What's bothering the variable is this plus 12. So now I want to do the opposite operation. Remember, keep the number the same, just the opposite operation. So the opposite of adding 12 would be subtracting 12. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. And then solve. So my plus 12 and minus 12, they cancel each other out. So what remains is x. My sign is greater than, and this is 4 minus 12. So they're different signs. So I'm going to subtract and keep the sign with the most. So my sign with the most is a negative sign, and 12 minus 4 would be 8. So x has to be greater than negative 8. So we're going to do a few problems and then look. Oh, actually, let's do this. Let's actually talk about what this would look like on a graph. So a straight line, I'm going to call it negative 8. Since there's no equal sign, I need an open dot. And then remember, your inequality tells you which way your arrow is pointing. So my inequality is a greater than sign. It looks like it's pointing to the right. So does my arrow on my graph. Okay, now in our example problems, we're going to see what checking looks like with our inequalities because it's going to work a little bit differently. So here's my first problem. X minus 32 is greater than negative 51. So I'm going to build my t-chart. Circle what's bothering the x, which is minus 32. The opposite of subtracting 32 would be adding 32 to both sides. My 32's cancel out, so I have x is greater than, and then negative 51 plus 32, I've got different signs, so I need to subtract and keep the sign with the most. So my sign with the most is negative, and now let's subtract 51 minus 32. When I do that, I get negative 19. Okay, now normally when we do our check, we still go back to our original equation. That part is still true. So x minus 32 is greater than negative 51. But we used to just plug in whatever number we got as our solution. But negative 19 is not our solution. Our solution here is any number that is greater than negative 19. So you get the freedom, the flexibility to pick any number you want that is greater than negative 19. Now, make this easy on yourself. For me, the first thing I think of when I see, oh, greater than negative 19 is I know, well, 0 is greater than negative 19. So I'm going to plug in 0 for x. So I have 0 minus 32. Well, it's just negative 32 is greater than negative 51. Remember, since they're both negative, I have to think backwards. What looks like it should be big is actually really small. So negative 51 is smaller than negative 32. This is true. But again, you could have picked the number 10. You could have picked the number negative 18. You could have picked negative 10. Any number could have been plugged in for x as long as it was greater than negative 19. Let's do another one. This one says 4x is less than or equal to 64. So I'm going to build my t-chart. What's bothering the x is that times 4. So the opposite of multiplying by 4 would be dividing by 4. My 4's cancel out. So I have x is less than or equal to. 4 will go into 6 one time, and I get 24 left over, and 4 will go into 24 6 times. So x is less than or equal to 16. For our check, again, we're going to go back to our original equation. So 4x is less than or equal to 64. Remember, I just need some number that's less than 16. So I'll use 10 for this one. So 4 times 10 is less than 64. 4 times 10 gives me 40. 40 is less than 64. So I get a check. Our next one, 1/5 x is less than 25. Remember, I want to rewrite these problems. So I want it to actually say x over 5 is less than 25. I'll build my t-chart. What's bothering the variable is that divided by 5. So the opposite would be times 5. So my 5's cancel out. So I get x is less than 25 times 5, which is 125. Again, for my check, I just need to pick any number that is less than 125. So I'm going to pick the number 100. So 100 divided by 5. 100 divided by 5 would give me 20, and 20 is less than 25. For our last one, I have x plus negative 6 is greater than or equal to 10. So what's bothering the x right now is that plus negative 6. So the opposite would be minus negative 6. Minus negative 6. So again, I have 10 minus negative 6. When I am subtracting with a negative number, I always want to use LCO. So I'm going to leave the 10. I'm going to change this to addition, and the opposite of negative 6 is positive 6. So it's just 10 plus 6, which is 16. So again, I just need to pick any number that is greater than negative 16. So I'm going to pick the number 20. So this will be 20 plus negative 6 is greater than 10. So 20 plus negative 6, signs are different, so I subtract and keep the sign with the most. Sign with the most is positive. 20 minus 6 gives me 14, is greater than 10. Check, that is correct.